This is a Hot Pie Original.
Hello, and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards. Of course, I'm excited. I'm always excited. I've been into the body lately. Let's get physical. And today we're going to talk to Adrienne Jezick of Morosco Forge Ice Baths. And I have encountered them tangentially at first. And then finally I tried one with her guiding me. And it is so amazing. And then I heard her story, which she's going to share today because she cured herself of so many things from freaking ice baths, y'all. So I'm just so stoked to share it today. So thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in once again, or if it's your first time, I'm just so thrilled that you're here because I'm all about overcoming fear and building small daily habits to be our best selves. That's what we're all about. So thank you so much. Please rate, review, subscribe if you feel called. Even if you don't feel called, please do it anyway. I'm so eternally grateful. Or share it with a friend if you hear something on here that makes you think of somebody. So let's get to it today. Let's jump in. I'm going to talk for just a few minutes, and then we're going to talk to Adrienne Jezick. Hi, and welcome to it. Here we are again. And I'm so happy to be here. I mean, I just feel like I got back from being out of town and just jumped right back in, and it just made me happy. Man, you know you're onto something when you go to do something and it makes you happy and it makes you feel good and you feel like ready and empowered and willing. But it takes a lot of steps to get there. So that's what we're all about. We're all about just taking those little steps and getting a little further down the road, a little closer to our purpose, a little closer to feeling like that, right? And as we talk to Adrienne today, she talks about that. At the end, she talks about just little steps. And I was reminded of that quote from Tony Robbins that I'm just such a fan of. And it's like small daily steps. No, that's not it. Small steps on a daily basis add up. And they just do. Those small steps make such a difference. And so, speaking of small steps, last week with Meg, we talked a lot about being kinder to our bodies, going easier on ourselves. And I talked about it in a physical way. And when I went to Costa Rica for the last week, I worked on my own physicality and getting more comfortable with it, because I have a tendency to hold my body to some unrealistic standard. Does that sound familiar at all? Do you ever do that? Maybe you think it's a realistic standard, but we can be so hard on ourselves. And then what are we saying to our bodies in those instances? I talked to a friend of mine, Britt, about it too. And she was saying, just our body is listening. Are we being kind to it? And so many times the answer is no. I'm looking at my ass and I'm going, oh God, it's listening. I hear myself. Our brain is listening. Our bodies are listening, and then they're reacting. And I'm kind of doing an experiment with myself because I've been into these experiments with myself. So I'm experimenting with what happens if I'm nice to my body. What happens if I'm just accepting of it? What happens if I just go, so what if my ass has dimples on it? What happens if I go, yeah, you're cute just the way you are? What happens if I don't worry about the judgments I'm perceiving from other people? Imagined or real? Mostly imagined, because I don't really care about other people's asses. Really don't. I mean, I appreciate a good looking one. I saw a bunch of good looking ones when I was in Costa Rica, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Show that shit off. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Cheers. If you're showing it off, you should, if it looks that good. But you know what? It always looks good. Show it anyway. Show your body. We have bodies. Be proud of them. And I was really proud of myself. I've been sharing it now on my social media. Shared it in my newsletter last week. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. It's just at amyedwards.com. You can go subscribe. And I shared a picture I didn't want to share because I thought I looked fat. I was criticizing myself. I shared pictures on my social media that I really thought, I would want to filter or maybe nip in my waist. Oh yeah, I know that squeeze. It's on PixArt. You can hit squeeze. It just squeezes you in just a little, just so it looks better, just so you make yourself feel better. Because as Meg said, like, then what? Then what? People aren't going to like you. That's ridiculous. Quality people, that's not how they operate. It's not. It's not how I operate. Is it how you operate? I don't think so. I bet it's not. You're just holding yourself to that standard, and we're perceiving those judgments. And so I let it hang out. I was just ass out. And, I'm still struggling a little bit with looking at those pictures and going, ooh, I don't like that. Ooh, I don't like how my body looks. Ooh, 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 ooh. Instead, I just let myself be photographed. I let myself relax. And I've changed my inner narrative to just saying, no, you look good. This is great. Yes. And so many times I've noticed in my own life too, I'll think I look terrible in a photo or something. And then I'll go back like a year or 2 years later and you look at it and you're like, what was I so upset about? I look cute. I look fine. You're easier on yourself as time passes. I don't know what that phenomenon is or why that is, but it is a real thing in my life. And so can I just shift on to that right now? Yes, I can. You can too. It just takes conscious effort and changing those patterns that we have done to ourselves over and over. And society has done to us too. It's not innocent in this equation. Magazines, Instagram, all of it, social media, advertisements, TV, unreal expectations. My partner, Justin, did Kambo on, Kambo is a medicine that comes from a Peruvian tree frog, I do believe. It's not a psychedelic. They burn your skin. I've done it as well. You drink a lot of water. They burn your skin. They put the medicine on top of the burn and then let it sit. And it really cleanses you. And you drink a lot of water and you usually throw up. Most people purge. And you not only purge out real toxins in your body, but all those things that can be holding you back too, like anger, resentment, ways that we're hard on ourselves. And I saw a change in him. And I don't think I'm overstepping when I share this because it relates to exactly what we're talking about. And he looked in the mirror at one point and he said, I look handsome. And I've never heard him say that before about himself. And it moved my heart. And how many times do we look at ourselves with such criticizing eyes and we aren't able to say, I love myself or you look beautiful? And I was reminded of about a year ago as I was doing a lot of this self-love work, and I've never liked my name, Amy. I thought it was too juvenile and childish. And I don't know, all the letters are like the beginning, the middle, and the end of the alphabet, and they just didn't seem to go together. And it wasn't like pretty. Whatever, I had all these little stories I was telling myself about it. And I had wished it was something different, like Vanessa, I like the name Vanessa. So anyway, I think it was after maybe my third ketamine or something infusion last year that was changing my neural pathways and shifting those things, shifting those ways of thinking, those ruminations that I tend towards so easily. And I one day thought, Amy, that's a pretty name. And I literally did a double take. It was like a record scratch. I was like, what? Did I just think that? Holy shit, I did. And I was like, that's wild. And I just took note, like maybe things are shifting. How do I keep that up? How do I keep being nicer to myself? Maybe it is a pretty name. And now I'm somewhere in between. I'm fine with it, I've become more accepting of it. And so I guess the point is that if we're going to take small steps around this, just when can you catch yourself? And when can you just be a little nicer? And I did. And I didn't allow myself to look at my ass in the mirror and go, yuck. Instead, I was like, yeah. Change it to another 4-letter Y word. Yeah. From yuck. And how can you just Allow it a little bit. That's right. I got a little dimple there. You like that? Mm-hmm. And you know what? When we love ourselves more, that's that paradox. Other people see it. We become more magnetic. We just show other people that this is how to love me. I love me. Watch and learn. This is how we do it. And that's an incredible thing. So today we're going to push that physicality even further. I've been on a kick that has surprised me about my physical self because I get so spiritual all the time, but our spirituality is in this form right now, whether you like it or not. It is. So what can we do to really learn from it, understand it better, or accept that we don't understand it all and tap into it, listen to it, feel what we're supposed to feel, what we're learning at the time. And I'm so excited to talk to Adrienne today. She's a fucking badass. I knew from the first time I heard her story, I was like, I have to share this. I have to lift up your voice. And she's phenomenal. She's healed herself from like a whole gigantic host of medical conditions and weight gain. And like she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, all sorts of shit. She listed off and she gained 50 pounds and like was on all sorts of pills, and she's gotten herself off of all of it. And they've invented a badass ice bath in the process. Like they're living examples of what these ice baths do. And you know, I've been on a bit of a cold journey, which I talk about. I mean, I just did Wim Hof. I did cold showers during the pandemic. I figured that was a good time. Excuse me. Because of the immune system benefits that cold can bring. I had read about that. So I was like, fine, I'll try it. And this is just really taking that a lot further. Your immune system. And not only that, the emotional response that we get to the cold. It's really incredible. So also check out my Instagram because they're delivering one to us in the coming days or whenever you're listening to this. Check out my Instagram because I'm going to be sharing her coaching me through one. And I'm really excited to see that. And it'll be my body too, right? It's just going to be out there for the world to see. I just had a moment of angst like, oh, fuck, I have to be in a bathing suit on Instagram. You know, there I am catching myself, resetting those ruminations, resetting those things I tell myself. Right. In the best way. Change yuck to yeah. Yeah, I get to. So that said, I'm excited to jump in with Adrienne today and share her story, her message, and her change that really came from pushing herself and doing this cold therapy. And I don't know, I'd love to hear from you and hear if you've done it or hear what it brings up in you. Because a lot of people have immediate mega aversion to it. I was asking Colton and he was already like, I don't know. And I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. And it's those times when I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, I should do this. Okay, I get it. What are you showing me? Right? Pay attention to those moments. So if you want to find them, remember that they are at Morozko Forge on Instagram, MOROZKO Forge, FORGE on Instagram. Adrienne is at ADRIENNE_Jezick, JEZICK on Instagram. And then of course they're at morozkoforge.com. I highly recommend you checking it out and just watch some of her videos because it's really interesting and really makes you go, what would I get out of it? Makes you so curious. So I'm really curious about my own cold journey, if you will, because I'm going to do it, which makes me nervous and all the things, but I'm going to push them out of the way and not think about them right now. Change it to yeah. So let's jump on in with Adrienne. And remember, all those links are in the episode description if you just want to click through and find everything you can about her and throw her a follow too. So let's get in the cold with Adrienne. You decided to have more fun?
I decided to have more fun.
Is it working?
So far. so far. It's a process.
How long has it been blonde or bleached?
I think about 4 or 5 weeks now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's been a little minute.
For
it's
short hair, you can
stages.
do it. Yes,
It's
it is.
stages.
Mhm.
And luckily, I'd gone a whole year without coloring my hair for the first time since I was 13.
Wow.
So I got to see my natural color,
Which was?
brown.
Because you were red.
Mousy-
You were
no,
like red.
It's like a reddish, mousy brown. Not a fan.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, time to change it up.
I love it. I think this is a good time for you to have a change.
It is.
Yeah.
Anytime's a good time for a change.
Well, that's true. It is.
But
you're right.
But it definitely, I mean, I've had this mission of focusing on relax, like stop being so serious. And there are so many things that keep happening to reinforce that. And I didn't know how much fun I wasn't having.
Ooh, tell me about, you know what? I feel the same way. And so thank you for sitting down with me.
Thank you for
I
having me.
feel the same way. I feel like even getting back from this trip, I was like, it feels different because I feel like I've just loosened up on myself. And so I'm like, I go, what am I forgetting to do? Am I forgetting to do stuff? But even if I am, so what? Doesn't even matter. Like, I'll get the notice that I need to pay the bill, or I'll get, like, what am I so worried about all the time?
I think that's the best attitude to have. And even when it comes to scheduling, I notice like, I don't have to worry about tomorrow. It's not even here yet. I don't have to worry about 5 o'clock today. It's not even here yet.
I saw a meme that was like, if it's not happening right now, it's not happening. And I was
100%.
like,
I love it.
I know. And maybe that's part of this relax thing.
I'm being told. I'm still working on it.
Me too.
Because it's hard to let go of control, right? And I think that's the thing that I keep leaning towards breaking myself away from, is understanding that my whole life I've just tried to control everything. And I'm leaning into more of this acceptance of I cannot control anything.
You can't control anything.
Except my breath. So when I feel overwhelmed, or when I start thinking about how many things I have to do in a day, or if I start thinking about tomorrow, or what am I forgetting, I just stop and take a deep breath. Even in those moments where I feel my emotions starting to heighten, just stop, take a deep breath. It's all we can do.
I had an incident of that in Costa Rica. I performed a song for service. You did. You saw it. Yeah, I did Sat Songs. I Am. And
Beautiful.
and I did it kind of as a sing-along, but I haven't got up in front of people and sang in quite some time. So I was nervous for a few days before. And as it was approaching, I was like toward the end of our little talent show, and I could feel my heart beating fast and my breath. And I just was like, what am I worried about? Why am I doing this? Why is my body reacting and I can't control it? And it was kind of pissing me off. And I was like, because I think that people, I'm sure you can slow down their heart rate. They can control that. And I couldn't do it in the moment, but I did tap into my breath and my intention. And I did realign with an intention that was just to go in and enjoy it. And try to relax and just enjoy it and have a good time and bring fun. And so luckily I did. It's kind of a blur, and I ended up not being nervous in the moment and doing it. But I think that's part of that. We can't control it. And even my own body, I felt like I couldn't control in that instance, except my breath. I did try to slow my breathing down. And I did notice that my heart rate calmed down some after that.
I am such a fan of the box breathing for that, because I notice that too, sometimes even switching cognitive energies. So one moment I'm possibly moving and delivering a 300-pound forge with Jason. The next moment I'm providing a guided sensory session for someone.
Right.
And that's a quick flip of cognitive energy. So if I just stand there and focus on some box breathing, even for 30 seconds, it will take me from that CrossFit kind of competitive high energy moment to dropping in and being able to facilitate and hold space for someone. Box breathing.
What does that mean? What is that?
So you do a count of 4 on the inhale.
Okay.
You hold for a count of 4 on the exhale, hold for a count of 4, and then you repeat.
Oh, okay.
Easy peasy.
I love that.
You can take
I
that
like
everywhere
holding
you
it.
go.
I love that. I like holding it too. I've been on a real kick of holding it at the top and holding it at the bottom. So I'm naturally kind of already doing it. And I don't know why I like it so much.
I think our bodies are intuitive.
It feels good.
Yeah. Yeah, our bodies are intuitive. We start to understand how we feel when we do that. And then your body's like, ooh, do that. Hey, back here, do that because that makes me feel real good when you do that. Hold your breath. Just a little bit. Not too much. Just a little bit.
Yeah. It just feels good. It feels full. It feels nice. I don't know.
It slows down.
It slows it down. Yes. Okay. So what I really want you to share your whole story because I think it's just really powerful and I want people to know. Because it's easy to be averse to cold. I've even talked to people and they're like, no, I'm not doing that. And I was for a long time.
Yeah.
And until the pandemic, and I decided, I looked into Wim Hof and I decided to spend some time building up in a cold shower, which I'd heard was good for your immune system and all the other things. And so I did very slowly. Now I can do it. I wouldn't say I'm just great at it, but I'm improving and I recognize that I'm able to.
Yes.
And the cold plunge I've only done, a handful of times, but I really like it. And I know you guys have worked hard to perfect yours, which is a whole nother story, but I'm interested in you personally. And I want to hear the whole thing again, because you've shared it with me and I was like, well, this has to be shared with more people because just that resistance that we have to the cold and what it can do for us.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you inviting me on your platform. And I've loved getting to know you. I feel like we've been working on this since January. So talk about growing some flowers together. I think that's so beautiful. It's a heck of a journey, right? And I believe it really started in childhood with trauma and manifested in my body. I'd kept myself in basically a constant state of fight or flight throughout my childhood, throughout my teens, throughout my 20s. And in my early 30s, it all hit. It all came to a head.
Was that a result of anything? Or was it just like something that you just constantly felt like? It wasn't part of that control thing?
I wasn't even aware. I think
that's common.
Yes. I wasn't even aware there was a problem until I got sick. And it was like my body saying, hey, you're not listening to me.
Wow.
You're not paying attention. Right. So I'm going to stop you dead in your tracks. And at about 33, 34 years old, I just started to get really sick. Started with heartburn so bad that I was just on fire. I couldn't drink water. It hurt to breathe.
Whoa.
Like it was just really outrageous. So, you go to the doctor and you're like, hey, what's going on with me? And within a year, I'd been diagnosed with 3 separate autoimmune conditions. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, eosinophilic esophagitis, and urticaria. And within this year, plus 1 year after that, I'd seen so many specialists. I mean, I was seeing neurologists, gastroenterologists, endocrinologists, and the whole time, and the whole time I'm in therapy. I was in dialectical behavioral therapy for more than a decade. It's not like I wasn't working on my stuff, but I really wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't making the changes that I needed to make in my body. So I got really sick and I'm getting all these diagnoses. And within just 2 years, I was on more than 20 prescription medications in a day, taking 20 pills in a day.
I think there's so you say you weren't listening to your body, but I feel like when people feel like they're getting sick, they think they are listening to their body.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you feel like, oh, something's wrong.
Yeah. Well, by then it's too late, right? By then the problem is already presented. And so you're doing this kind of damage control. And we trust our doctors. And I'm not saying don't trust medical professionals. I'm still a fan of medical professionals, but they're not treating individuals. They're treating symptoms.
Yeah.
And each doctor I went to was treating a host of symptoms, not based on me and who I am, but based on data and documents and papers, and they spend maybe 15 minutes with you, 20 max, to help you figure out what's going on. And there are things that are going on that you don't even know are symptoms because you've lived with them so long, you don't realize. And there are things that you're going on that you're describing as symptoms, but could present in many different illnesses. So I think that's part of the challenge for a medical professional. They're individualized specialists. They're not looking at your body as a whole. It's taking it kind of like a top-down approach. Like, well, I'm your general practitioner and this is what I see. So this is what I'm going to focus on.
Right.
I'm your gastro. So this is what I see. This is what I'm going to focus on.
Right.
And so here I am. And also keeping in mind that first year that I got sick, and I'd always been a relatively, thin individual, I gained 50 pounds in a year. Talk about uncomfortable. Like even my skin hurt from how fast everything had stretched. And I was just so uncomfortable. So over a course of about 3 or 4 years, I tried everything. I tried naturopath. I tried the vitamins. I tried supplements. I tried cleanses. I tried plant-based, and I tried paleo, and not paleo, that correction. What's the one where you don't eat meat, but you do eat shrimp?
Oh, I don't know.
Pescatarian.
Pescatarian.
Yeah. So I tried all that. And then I did have a doctor that said, you need to be eating red meat, like full on, you need red meat in your food regimen. And I don't call it a diet. It's only a food regimen. Like,
okay,
we're all different.
I like that.
Food regimen. Yes.
Cool.
And then I stumbled across, this was like my first big break about 3 or 4 years into illness. Dr. Terry Walls has a book called The Walls Protocol. And it's a food regimen based on low inflammation eating.
Okay.
She developed this because she has multiple sclerosis and she did not want to be on medication. So she thought, how can I feed my body with food medicine? And so that's where she developed this. And I tried it for like 30 days hardcore. Like I'm going to listen to every single thing that she says.
I mean, I would think at this point, you're like really giving it your all, whatever you're trying.
Were you? You think you are, but you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So like I thought I was eating well, but I wasn't. And I thought I was, doing the right things by my body, but I really wasn't. And it also took prior to discovering this low inflammation, situation, took a year of an elimination food regimen to really dial in what it was I was reacting to. And the things that I found that I was allergic to were insane, like eggs, bananas, peanuts, xanthan gum, which is in like everything. There's hardly a thing you can touch that doesn't have xanthan gum in it. And so, eliminating gluten and doing all the things. So I just stumbled across this book. I'm like, I'm going to give it 30 days, but within 3 to 5 days, my energy levels were just shooting through the roof. So I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. Like, I'm going to stick with this. And I did. I stuck with that for about a year-ish. And, tweaking things along the way because you find these greens are good for me and I react really well when I have them. Too much fruit's not so good for me because it's so sugar and carb heavy. And you start to just kind of dial it in. And I still hadn't lost a pound. Doctors told me I was never going to lose any weight because of my conditions.
Doctors told you were never?
Never. Literally, my endocrinologist flat out said, she said, people don't lose weight with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. They just don't. It doesn't happen. And you'll never be
like, how can that even be?
Right. But not knowing what I don't know, I hadn't met anyone yet who had. I mean, I've been meeting all of these women in these groups and these circles that were suffering these same conditions, and they weren't losing any weight and everything that they were doing. And I was never really big into working out, but I was always very physical, so I'm active. Like I hardly sit down. Maybe that's all the nervous energy. But so about a year in, I'm doing the low inflammation food regimen. And things just weren't changing. The major symptoms weren't going away. And like I said, I tried naturopath. I tried the acupuncture and the vitamin regimens and the cleanses.
I can't even imagine how fucking frustrated you were.
Those never felt good. Acupuncture did. Love acupuncture. I'm all about acupuncture.
I love acupuncture.
I think that is really the jam.
Me too.
And we can do it ourselves in minor ways, like with tapping, like we can do that on ourselves. So I love the healing modalities that you can kind of carry with you anywhere you go.
Yeah, I do too.
Tools in my belt, like breath work. But I was still just on the cusp of all of this. So, when I started to get really serious about it, it was because I decided I wanted to go on an ayahuasca journey. And in order to go on an ayahuasca journey, I couldn't be on any of the medications I was taking. So the first things to go were like my vitamins and my supplements. I'm like, flat out, I had just read one book that said, if you're constantly filling your body with vitamins and supplements, your body starts to recognize that from the pill versus the food. And you're kind of turning off your body's receptors to pull that from the food that you're eating.
Wow.
So
I did not know that.
I don't know either. And I don't know how true that is. So, mind you guys, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just going on like what do I feel?
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to make one change today. In 30 days, how do I feel about that change?
Yeah.
In 3 to 5 days, how do I feel about that change?
Like conducting your own experiments. I talk about that all the time. I'm like, just try it as an experiment. Just see.
Start small.
Yeah,
start with
small.
one tiny thing.
Start with breath. Start with box breath.
Yeah, start with box breath.
Yeah.
So vitamins and supplements, gone. And I started playing around a little bit with intermittent and extended fasting because a lot of what eosinophilic esophagitis is digestive issues.
Okay.
And I thought, well, if I give my body more time to process these things, not only do I have time for it to go through my system, but then when I'm introducing things, I'm doing it on a fully empty system, which seemed really positive to me.
Yeah.
And I still wasn't losing any weight. And that was my marker. Honestly, that was my marker because when you're carrying 50 extra pounds and most of it in my midsection, like I would just be driving in my car and I would feel like this tire belly that I just couldn't get comfortable around.
Yeah.
Dealing with chronic pain. I had so much pain in my legs sometimes. It just felt like I was being hit with a sledgehammer just constantly, even lying in bed on a pillow top mattress. I get up from work the next morning and the pain to just push on my gas pedal in my car was too much. It's just too much. My body was still deteriorating. So I'm making all these changes in my food regimen. I'm making these changes in the way that I'm eating. I'm getting rid of all the extra noise and I'm still not seeing changes. Wow. And a friend of ours in Phoenix, Arizona, Gordon Ogden, he's a yoga teacher. Started hosting these backyard Wim Hof breathing and ice bath sessions.
Oh, boy.
You know, I'm just going to start sharing this with people. I want to try it. So I'm going to share it with people.
Have you done the ayahuasca yet at this point or you're still? Okay.
Still so early.
Okay.
And so he says, you know, he'd invite people over, but it'd always be like Thursday night, tomorrow morning, Friday, 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. Bring your 2 bags of ice. We're all going to do it. Well, at the time I was a slave to a 9 to 5 and I couldn't really get anywhere at 6 a.m. on a Friday to have this experience. So my husband, being the innovator that he is, he's like, well, we'll do our own, you know, that way you can try it. And now, mind you, I'm terrified because I'm a Florida girl. I grew up on the beach. I lived in Hawaii, Phoenix summers. I lived in Phoenix for 17 years and the summer is still my favorite time of year. Like that first day that it's 100 degrees, I am celebratory. I am like a whole new breath of life. I'm like, I go outside, feels like a warm hug. My whole body feels good. You know, there's no stress. And I would even at times become emotionally dysregulated at the thought of cold.
Yeah.
So, you know, you go into a restaurant to eat, it's 70 degrees. If I don't have enough jackets on me or layers, I can't even concentrate on the meal or the conversation because I'm so upset about being so cold.
I'm miserable in the cold.
It hurts.
Like, yeah.
Right? It hurts. It's like this is not how I want to live. I want sunshine and rays all the time.
You want to feel good.
Yeah. And he has always felt really good to me, you know? So Jason decides, you know, we're going to host this in our backyard and I'm terrified. I'm like, all right, I said I was going to do it. So that means I have to do it. Like I'm not backing down. This is the competitive part of me, ways that I didn't even know I was competitive. But I was like, this is where the real meat and potatoes comes out of Adrienne. She's really competitive. And I'm like, I said I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. So it was Jason and our business partner, Tom, and my friend Maya, I think was the first 4 of us that did it. And we each brought our 2 bags of ice or maybe it was my friend Wendy. We switched off a few times, but we each brought our bags of ice. We bought a big, 6 by 2 by 2 feed trough, the same things that the cows and the horses eat out of. And we said, we're going to fill it with ice. We're going to fill it with water. We're going to do this breath work. And then we're going to take an ice bath. I was terrified the whole time. And we did the breath work, which is amazing. I love Wim Hof breath work.
Me too.
It's so high energy. It's so holotropic. And I just had this ability with breath work to really drop in. So I'd see all the pretty colors, felt like the rolling water massage on my limbs and stuff.
Nice.
Like it just feels amazing, but it's very high energy.
Yeah.
So I'm standing in front of the tub for the very first time. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to do this. So I decide to do it. And what I'm just going to tell everyone right now is the worst way possible. Don't do this.
You have a video up on your Instagram. Which I will put a link to where I watched it not too long ago. And you jumped in.
Yeah. I like propped myself on like
and
hovering.
then dropped.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got one hand on each side of the tub, one foot on each side of the tub. And I'm like, the only way I'm going in is if I go all in and there's no going back. Right. So I drop my body in. I'm under the water. I hold my breath as long as I can, which happened to be 9 seconds. I leapt out. I freaked out. And I wanted to do it again.
Hey!
I felt a sense of empowerment that is still hard for me to explain.
Okay.
I did it.
You did it.
I did the thing.
Uh-huh.
Now I never have to do it again. But my brain, something in my brain is saying, that was good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And in that 9 seconds, I had relief of pain in my legs for the very first time in like 5 or 6 years.
While you were in there or when you got out?
When I got out. I don't know what was going on when I was in there. I was not aware of anything.
No, it's pretty, challenging.
And the way that I did it, head dunk, hold breath, freezing water, no big deal. Right. So yeah, I just felt really empowered. I just felt like, wow, I did something that I thought I would never in a million years be able to do. Like this person who grew up in sunshine, who embraces the heat, who is not about the cold at all. Like, oh, you want to go on a winter vacation? And yeah, sure, I'll sit by the fire and drink a hot toddy and I will never leave the lodge, But I immediately felt, I felt right away the power of the cold. And my brain noticed right away that chemical dump that, and it wasn't nearly as much as you get in a 2-minute ice bath, but it was a norepinephrine dump and a dopamine dump. And it was also really exciting and exhilarating. Plus, with water, the power of that cold is penetrating your core. Your body goes into fight or flight. When it's at those freezing temperatures, your body goes into fight or flight. And all of a sudden, all of your systems are going, you're going to die. I have to keep you alive. Mm-hmm. So everything is activated. My metabolism was activated. My circulatory system was activated. My brain function, everything was activated.
So that's what it does.
That's part of what it does.
Part of what it does. You feel like you're going to die and everything goes into
beast mode.
Motion.
Yeah. Like I have to keep you alive. I have to keep you alive. And I did not do a second ice bath that day. I waited. We waited a couple of weeks and we hosted another session. And it was about my second or third session.
What was going on in your head during those couple of weeks? Were you thinking about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Like it kept kind of
Why didn't you do it?
Yeah. What was creeping back into my mind was by this point, the pain had set back in my legs. And I thought, well, maybe that's the only way to get rid of it. Maybe that's the only way is to just soak in ice.
How long was it gone for? Like
the day.
The day, though.
Maybe the day. And I know that I slept like a baby that night.
See, that's freaking
And it was
amazing.
on a Sunday. I'm pretty sure it was on a Sunday. I had to go to work the next day. And so there was this kind of after effect of like, I just kept thinking about it.
Were you sleeping good when you were sick and all that? How was your sleep?
Yes, but it was only because my body was so overtaxed that I could sleep 18, 20 hours like a ton of bricks and still not feel rested.
Oof.
So it was one of those where I would have just enough energy most days to get through a work day. And I would get home and I'd go right back to bed.
You just want to crawl in bed.
Losing everything in my life, losing friends, losing social activity. It was affecting my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my boys. Like it was affecting my relationship to myself because I felt like I, started the day. They call it, when you have autoimmune, they call it spoons. You start the day with this many spoons. And as soon as you do this, you've given up this spoon. And you do this task, you've given up that many spoons. And by the end of the day, you probably have no spoons left because every little task took all these spoons from you. Right.
Yeah.
And so my life was just diminishing before my very eyes. I feel like my body was just giving up on me.
That is heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking. And I didn't and in this moment of experiencing these symptoms on a daily basis and experiencing just being sick all the time, I'm thinking, there's got to be a magic pill. There's got to be like this, there's got to be a pill. There's got to be a thing. Like what do people do? You can't just live with this. But I'd really gotten to a point like, this is just my life now. I just have to figure out how to live my life like this now because that's what it is. But over that first couple of weeks after my first ice bath, my mind kept going back to it. Like just thinking of how good I felt afterward. And it had not only been so many years since I'd felt good. I don't know if ever in my life I felt that good, ever in my entire life, because it also provides this clarity, like this peace of mind. That chemical dump also creates this environment of just pure clarity, and space to pause and stop being, like I said, in my first 30 some odd years of life, I'm just in this constant fight or flight mode because I was trained from childhood to always be on alert, always be ready for that next big thing, always be ready for that next big traumatic event. Mm-hmm. So the second time we did it, I still dropped myself in and it still was powerful, amazing. Yep. Like the first 2 times I did it, that's how I did it. And that time I think I lasted maybe 15 to 17 seconds. So by the third time that we had gathered a group of people to do this, breathing and ice session, I was standing in front of the water and I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even get near it. But I knew if I did, I'd feel better after. So I realized that this is like this mental block, and I'm standing there and I'm staring at it and I'm staring at it.
I can identify with that because you get so up in your head around it. Like
it hasn't even happened yet. Nothing's even happened. I'm in the yard. The sun is on me. I'm dry.
If I'm planning it and I think about it too much, I'm like, ah!
And this is where we get to teach ourselves that we are the stories we tell ourselves, right? So the story I was telling myself at that moment was, I'm scared. I'm anxious. I can't do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Right. And I had to flip that. But I didn't know that at the moment. And luckily, my business partner, Tom, is a few years older than I am and a wonderful mentor and guide. And he says, Adrienne, what if you just stepped into the water and got up to your knees? And then by the time you got up to your knees, you sit down. And as he's saying this, something clicked in my mind. Like, that's exactly what I need to do. I'm in control here. And so by the time he said the word knees, I was sitting down in the water. And in my beginning of my practice, I'd only go up to like here. So just below the shoulders, like, okay, boobs are in, I'm good. Mm-hmm. And I was in it. And I don't know how long that ice bath lasted, but I know it was more than a minute. And I stayed in and I didn't freak out and I wasn't hyperventilating and it wasn't scary. And it felt really good, which helped me stay in a little longer. And then when I got out the same way that I got in, 1 foot at a time, slow and intentional. And this is like my third ice bath. But at this point, I feel like I had unlocked the key for me. The key for me is to not to meet these things with competitive aggression. I can't fight the cold. I can't fight against this freezing water. I have to surrender to this cold. I have to surrender to this water. I have to surrender to this healing.
Like you're not going to win. You're not going to beat it.
This is not a competition. Adrienne, this is one area where you have to fully let go of control. Nothing in me was fully prepared for that. And it changed me. It changed me as a person to fully understand what it meant to just surrender and let it happen. By this point, Jason, Tom, and I were all discovering health benefits and different benefits. And
what are we so worried about? The pain?
Oh, yeah.
Like, is that what I'm so scared of? What I'm terrified of it? Is it the pain?
It's the discomfort.
The discomfort. We're just terrified of discomfort.
Right. Think of even how we start our day, like how I start my day. I don't start my day going like, how are all the ways that I'm going to make myself feel uncomfortable today? No, I'm thinking, what are the things I can do to make myself feel comfortable? The clothes that I wear, comfort. The hair that I do, comfort. Mm-hmm. Even the amount of makeup I put on my face for comfort. Mm-hmm. The shoes on my feet. Can I walk 4 blocks? I'm looking for comfort. Mm-hmm. What's the temperature of my car? What's the temperature of my home? Do I need breakfast? What am I craving to drink the first thing of the day? Everything we reach for is comfort based. So why would I look for this way to make myself feel so uncomfortable? It's just uncomfortable. It's not even pain.
It's like just contrary to what we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even pain. It's discomfort. It's tingling.
It is tingling.
It's your vascular system waking up and coming to the party.
I make myself uncomfortable on a regular basis. Like, why am I so worried about that? Like, why?
Different levels.
Yeah.
Different
it's like
levels.
psychedelics or something, you know, it's like that level. It's like when you get to uncomfortable, like it's this unknown. But really the cold is not even an unknown.
To many of us, it is.
I guess it is. Like sitting in it for 4 minutes, you know, but once I'm in it, I can do it.
Yeah.
It's that getting in.
Just get in.
Just getting in.
Just get in. Because once you're in, you're in.
Yeah, then you're in. You might as well stay in there.
Just stick out for a little bit. Yeah.
I don't think I've done it yet without really hyperventilating or just like that. I don't have control of my breath yet.
I do not remember you hyperventilating when I guided you.
Really?
I don't. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the footage.
I'm going to pull it up.
I feel like
for this.
I feel like you dropped right in.
I tried.
But you were on a weekend of dropping in. You were on a weekend of pushing discomfort. And well, I mean, like you said, you do this all the time. Like we find ways now to make ourselves uncomfortable for that exponential growth.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so you guys were starting to see some health benefits, which were what? Like what was happening physically, not just to you, but to healthy people or perceived healthy people.
So, so for me, it was definitely the lack of pain in my legs. The more I was doing this, the longer I could go without that pain setting back in my legs. And it was that feeling of empowerment. And it was that chemical hit. So that surge of dopamine and norepinephrine, you can't get that with a pill. You can't get that with food. You can't even get that with most experiences. But because your body goes into fight or flight and it thinks it needs to calm you down, it gives you the best tools to do so.
Is that Wim Hof's whole thing too?
No, Wim Hof breathing is a little different, but it's the cold that does that. His cold
stuff, though, I was wondering.
It's the cold that does that. And so it starts to change your brain. It starts to change the way that you think. So I was noticing better emotional regulation.
Changes your brain and how you think and your emotional regulation. Damn.
Yeah. Jason got in. Jason got into it for so many reasons, but he started to notice stresses. You know, he was, again, those outside stresses and how to calm that down. Being a combat war veteran, he's in this hypervigilant state all the time. And this was a practice he could do that yoga couldn't do for him, that meditation couldn't do for him, where he could really just turn it all off and feel peace and quiet and silence for the first time.
That's incredible.
Yeah. In a way that he'd never had before. Wow. Tom got into it for prostate reasons. We've got a whole article about this on our website about testosterone because he'd gone in and his doctor had seen some markers and he wanted to put him on some synthetics. And Tom's like, I'm not putting that stuff in my body. What else can I do? Well, Tom's a scientist, so he started researching. It's like, you guys, the cold, good for testosterone. Let's try this out. Yeah. And I'm paraphrasing here. This is not how Tom talks.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Paraphrase for me.
Thank you.
I don't need a scientific
Thank you, because neither do I. He was like, I've seen the route that my friends have gone through. I don't want to go that route. So what are the natural healing remedies that I can do? The natural healing modalities I can do. And the cold was one of them. So and I think this is kind of a fun aside. If it's your first ice bath ever, you're going to feel randy afterwards. Like it's just the most polite way to say that. The ice gets your blood flowing.
Gotcha.
And that's part of what happens and please, I'm not a doctor, don't quote me on this, but like with prostate cancer and stuff, it's like blood flow. Nighttime erections for men and blood flow for women, like all these things are circulatory and vascular in our vascular system.
Well, yeah, that's why they discovered that, whatever Viagra was a heart medicine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about that blood flow. So, we were all seeing those super fun benefits, which was really rad. Especially because I'd been so sick for so long that, you lose these
I'm sure
parts
it killed
of
your
yourself.
sex drive.
It really does, especially, because it's hormonal. It's your whole, and you're doing the best you can to keep up and to try and to, schedule your days so you have the energy for all these things. And that was a beautiful result. That was a really nice, you're not only connecting with your own body and yourself and feeling things like come back online that hadn't been online in a while, but it's like a full awakening then with your partner who's also experiencing this, which is just super rad.
What year was this?
2017.
Okay.
November of 2017 is when I took my very first ice bath.
Okay.
It was like the 3rd or the 4th or something. It was pretty, never forget it, right? Never forget
I remember
your
my
first ice bath. Yeah.
Which was only last year, like November.
Yeah. So
October.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, and in Phoenix, it's still like pretty hot outside. So it's not like it was too cold outside or anything
Right.
like that. And so we all started saying like, we need this in our lives. How are we going to put this in our lives regularly? So Tom got the deep chest freezer to try that experiment out. We got a big freezer for the patio so that we could make our own ice blocks throughout the week to hopefully do this once a week.
Mm-hmm.
But then Jason's spending like an hour to an hour and a half every evening switching out the ice blocks and getting it all ready so that on once a week, we could maybe take 5 to 6 ice baths before that water starts warming up, and it just wasn't enough. It was not enough. We all realized quite quickly we needed this as a daily practice. We needed more. And part of it was that craving for the norepinephrine and the dopamine. But part of it was the lack of inflammation. Part of it was the emotional regulation. Part of it were these other changes that we were seeing in all of us.
What's the difference between this and the cryo, where people get in those cryo things?
So when it comes to cryo, it's usually it's air.
Yeah.
It's a type of air. So it affects the surface of the skin. It can actually be quite dangerous. You can burn yourself.
I hate it.
Antonio
Makes
Brown
me miserable.
was an NFL football player, and he burned the bottoms of his feet in a cryo chamber once.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like can be really dangerous. And that's why they make you put the mittens on and the ear things and the footies. And, when I tried it the first time, I was like, this is ridiculous. The cold needs to go to these places. The cold needs to reach my extremities. How's this going to work for me? By the time I got out of the chamber, and I'd been in there for 7 minutes, and the lady's like, you really shouldn't be in there more than 4 minutes. And I'm like, okay, fine. Well, I got distracted by the little snow flurries and looking at my reflection. I felt like a little princess. And I look up and I'm like, oh, it's been 7 minutes.
I'm so impressed you could stay in there for 7 minutes.
Well, I've been practicing cold exposure in water for a while.
Yes.
So I get out, and by the time I got dressed, I was sweating. And that's the example of how the cold cryo air affects the surface of the skin, but water penetrates your core. Water will actually reduce your core body temperature. And that's what makes it so much more effective. That's what makes it more difficult, but that's also what makes it so much more effective.
Okay.
So I've done cryo now a few times, the air, and I think I'm seeing people call cryo any type of cold immersion or any type of cold therapy. So I want to be specific when I'm saying the air chamber versus the water.
Yes.
Water penetrates below the surface, penetrates your core, and is so much more effective.
Okay.
You get in 2 minutes with water would take like maybe 15 or 20 in a cryo chamber.
I just know that with water, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And with the cryo, I cannot. I just want out. I'm unhappy. And I'm not even happy afterward. I'm like, I don't want to do that again. But after the cold plunge, I feel different. I feel empowered. I feel good.
Well, you get that chemical dump.
I guess so.
And I don't know if you get that with cold air. I've never felt it.
Yeah.
I've never felt it in a cryo chamber. There's also you're all wrapped up, so I don't understand that. The last time I did it, I even had to wear a robe. And
Really?
I was like, where's the cold? The cold got 2 inches on my arm and maybe my knees. And I'm like, that's not enough.
Mm-mm.
I don't feel cold anywhere that the fabric is covering me, And again, by the time I'm dressed, I'm sweating. I'm like, this is not how this is supposed to work.
No.
I want to feel cold for hours. And that's one of the things that the cold water does is it almost feels like you've got little icy gel packs under your skin for a while. And I love that feeling. That's also empowering. It's like, oh, I'm just walking around with my little icy packs and my muscles feel good, and my joints feel good, and my brain feels good, and it gets everything moving. It also does a lymphatic flush. So it flushes your lymphatic system. So I think that was another really important part that helped my healing was I was flushing toxins out of my system rather regularly, as often as I could do a cold plunge. Luckily for me and, everyone else out there, didn't take Jason and Tom more than a year to develop the technology to create daily ice baths for us. We had our first prototype, I'd say, in about 5 or 6 months from first discovering cold water immersion.
Amazing. It's amazing because the first one I did was obviously like one of those that you climb into, step into, kind of drop in, and you sit down, but it's like tall and full of ice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I like that kind of lying down in the supine position and relaxing.
Like bath style.
Yeah. And it's different than a cold shower. You won't catch me taking a cold shower. I mean, I haven't washed my hair with hot water and I don't know how long because, protecting the hair, but I won't put my whole body in cold water in a shower because 60 degrees of being pelted in a local area feels very aggressive to me.
Yeah.
I'd rather just sit calmly.
It is aggressive. It's aggressive.
Yeah.
But it's kind of all I had. So I just decided to try.
Yeah. And in Phoenix, even in the wintertime, good luck getting a cold shower in Phoenix in the wintertime. I mean, our pool doesn't even get below 55 in the wintertime. So it's like, this is not enough. If I'm going to get cold, it better be worth it.
It's kind of good that y'all had to develop it in a hot environment.
Yeah.
You were forced to.
We were forced to. Yeah. And we weren't.
Because yours is outside.
Yeah.
We should address that too.
Outside. It's in Phoenix, summer sun, 125 degrees. It gets in our backyard in the summertime. And that thing still makes ice. And it's rad. And that was part of the challenge too. We didn't know that there were other people with these problems. We were just trying to solve our own problems.
Right.
We're like, we just need this for us. Like, how do we make this for us?
Mm-hmm.
And so our first prototype was really Frankenstein-esque and sat on like a bed of sand, and it had like so many dozens of cans of spray foam in it. Didn't even have a ledge. There was like an old freezer door. Jason had just kind of sat on top of it, had these like devices hanging in, these like cold coils hanging in to keep it cold all the time. And there were so many times during the research process when he's like tearing apart these little dorm fridges just to find out where cold comes from. And I'm like, you're going to blow up our house. Like, you're going to blow something up. And he's like, that's not how science works. Okay. Trust the guy, trust the engineer, trust your engineers.
I would think you're going to electrocute yourself or something too.
No, they weren't plugged in, luckily.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah. Well, and that's another question that people ask is like, well, how do you know you're not going to get electrocuted? Have you ever questioned that when you got into a hot tub?
No.
Why would the cold be any different?
Yeah. This is basically like the reverse of a hot tub.
The complete reverse of a hot tub. And so it's kind of funny to me, like when I hear those things and I'm going like,
why haven't we thought
I
of
know
that?
I'm not a scientist or an engineer here, but yeah, we're fully grounded. We've been checked many times.
Well, so you start to have so in what time period do you start to see like your health just turn around?
Oh my gosh. Within the first 6 months, I lost 30 pounds.
You just lost 30 pounds?
Just lost 30 pounds. I wasn't doing anything else different. Everything else I had already started. I was already on low inflammation food. I was already doing intermittent and extended fasting. This was the catalyst for really melting. And isn't it crazy to think of the cold melting away pounds? And I know that I'm not weight focused, but when you're healthy, you're at a healthy weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like, well, if I'm overweight, I'm not healthy. If I'm skinny, I'm healthy. Mm-hmm. I just knew that was one of the big markers for me. And it was also the biggest way for me to gauge the change. And I mean, it just started to drop. And it would be sometimes from like 1 to 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, I don't fit into a single thing that I used to wear. And that was
cool.
So cool. Nothing I had done had gotten me to that point. Nothing had made that type of change in my body.
It must have been just so encouraging, to finally be like, something's working.
If anything is going to get you back into the cold, it's getting back into those old jeans. Yeah. I tell you what, it was life-changing, life-changing. And also during this process, this is one of my favorite things I like to tell to highlight the emotional regulation. During this process, when we had our first ugly prototype, the one that was keeping it 33 degrees all the time, but was really an eyesore, at least we had it for daily practice.
Yeah.
There was this night, I was arguing with Jason, my husband, about something. I don't know what. I was bawling my eyes out. I was so upset. I could not formulate what it was I was so upset about. And we're on our patio, sitting on the couch, and I'm just like, sitting our little patio set there, and I'm sitting there and I'm inside my head and I'm going, just stand up. Like if you can change your physical space, maybe you can change your mental or your emotional space. Like this is one of the things that I was practicing.
A state change.
100%.
Tony Robbins talks a lot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, just stand up. Just stand up. And I'm sobbing. And like when you're in that state of like, you can't form words, you can't do a thing, and you feel fully paralyzed. And like your emotions have taken over. And just in my head, just stand up. Just stand up. Just stand up. All of a sudden, it was like this light bulb moment. Just stand up and get in the cold. And my eyes opened. I was like, that's what I need to do. And I'm still sobbing. Like I'm still, like, And so I stood up and I walk across the yard and I'm stripping off all my clothes and I go right into the water. And I sat there for 4 to 5 minutes. And I didn't move. I just sat there and surrendered to all of it. And then I got out and I walked back across the yard and I looked at Jason and I said, I don't remember what I was upset about, but I'm not upset anymore. And can we just forget about it and enjoy our evening together? That's all I want.
What did he say?
Oh, he was all in. He was like, heck yeah. Like, find me that reset button.
That is a reset button.
That is the complete reset button. And normally, after an emotional experience like that, you get that emotional hangover. It'll last throughout the evening and you got to sleep it off. And maybe even the next day, you're still feeling a little bit off because you're a little bit in pain and your heart hurts a little bit and you're a little exhausted and you're a little puffy, from this expenditure of energy and this emotional experience. And it wasn't like that. I had hit my reset button.
Nice.
I wasn't only calmer and stronger than I was before I got in. I was calmer and stronger than I was before when I was calm and strong.
Right.
And that was like a really aha moment. I was like, this is the answer. This is that shot. This is that miracle pill. This is that miracle cure. And I've tested that more than once because let's be honest, I still go through emotional dysregulation at times. And when I go through a really big
emotional dysregulation. I like that. I like that term.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not recognized on my phone as a real word, but that's exactly what it is. It's a meltdown, it's a breakdown, but it's an emotional dysregulation. It's brought up of a trauma from the past that is enacted by a reflection of the present that we then need to sit in.
A trauma from the past. It's enacted as a reflection of the present. I just had this happen recently. So just processing it. Yeah.
Ditto.
I got out of it pretty fast thanks to the tools that I have. But I had a moment of like a little hyperventilating. I had a moment of really like fear around it. And if I had been able to hop in a cold plunge, I'm sure it would have made just a massive difference.
And that can be paralyzing, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're in that moment and you're like, I promise I want to learn from this and grow from this, but I don't know what this is right now.
Right.
And so when you're in the cold, it teaches you that how to create for yourself that space between whatever the thing is that's happening and your reaction to it.
Reactiveness.
Yeah. So it's also like in traffic, 3.5 years ago, if I was cut off in traffic, it'd cause a near panic attack for the number of car accidents I've been in. And I wouldn't be able to like calm down for hours. Mm-hmm. Now I get cut off in traffic and it's like, oh, oops. Oh, you did an oopsie. Like, oh, okay. I've done that before. I understand. Maybe you're a teenager
or
learning
like
to
maybe
drive.
Maybe you're in a huge hurry.
Yeah, maybe your wife's having a baby.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know.
Maybe you're bleeding. I don't know. So it's this pause and reflection space that I've learned to create through emotional resiliency by practicing deliberate cold exposure.
I love it. I love it.
It's the tool. It's the magic pill. And I've used it for that more than once. And even still, I know if I'm struggling, whether that be emotionally, mentally, physically, I know the cold's the answer. There are even days when I stare at it and I'm like, I've done this. I've got this. I've done, I don't really need to do this today because, I do this and it's fine. And I need to do this. And there are also those times when it's like, I don't have the energy for this. I don't have what it takes to carry me through that 2 minutes today. And when I fight it the most, I know that's when I need it the most. So it's like, Jason likes to say that the reason
that's so frustrating.
I know. Jason likes to say the reason the cold water fixes everything is because the first thing it changes is the way that you're thinking about what you're going through. And I think that's pretty accurate. Again, I'm paraphrasing here. I don't quote directly people, so don't ever quote me directly, but
you're making it your own.
Yeah. It changes the way that you think about it. It changes the way that you think about what you can do. And when you're surprising yourself by, dipping into this cold water all the time, you're just creating this sense of empowerment, and it gets easier. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But I tell you what, you take 3 weeks off, it's going to be just like that first time.
Damn.
Yeah.
What's the longest you've taken off since you started doing it?
Probably not more than 4 weeks.
Wow.
Maybe 5. Maybe 5, but definitely not. Yeah.
When did you start? So when you did it with me, and I want to just say that it was, that was the first day was that the first day we met?
In person.
In person, yeah. And you were doing like a demo up north, and it was freezing outside.
It was snowing. It was the first day it snowed in Austin.
Yeah, in January, I guess. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. Nothing in me wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Except the fact that I wanted to go meet you and see you and Jason. And Justin too, you know, and I was like, I gotta go and I've got to be prepared to do this. I just put on my swimsuit and I showed up. And, but I was really worried. I was like, how am I even going to get warm afterward? Cause it's so cold outside. You know, a lot was coming up. So anyway, when you did it with me, and I'm hoping I can find the footage because I think I've got it somewhere. And, you know, when did you start? So you did a sound bowl with me, like a Tibetan bowl, I think it was. And, you know, you started walking me through affirmations, which is like speaking my language. And so I jumped right in and just started repeating after you and decided to surrender to you really and to the cold and just to whatever this process was that you had developed. So when did you start like doing that kind of thing with it? Or were you always doing that a little bit with yourself?
You know, I had started doing it a little bit with myself. Like I said, I'd been in dialectical behavioral therapy. And one of the ways that they teach you to handle emotional regulation, like if you're feeling anxious or if you're feeling dysregulated, you touch on all 5 of your senses, which helps ground you, bring you back into the present. Because a lot of what anxiety is just a story that we're telling ourselves.
100%.
Fear about what is not happening. What hasn't happened.
Like we said, I don't know if it was on the air or not, but it was that meme that's like, if it's not happening now, it's not happening.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so part of that was my practice was, you know, if I'm feeling anxious about going into the cold, these are the things I need to do to ground myself. If I'm feeling anxious about this big meeting, feeling anxious about whatever the thing is, if I'm feeling fear or anxiety, I know that I have to get in touch with my senses.
Okay, so
that's going to ground me.
That means the sound, like the sound bowls.
Yeah. What am I hearing? So in my backyard, picture this. I'm in my backyard. It's Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm hearing my Arco Santi bell, which is really beautiful. It's this copper cast bell that's just got this beautiful ring that hangs in my charming tree in my backyard. So I can hear my bell.
Okay.
I can see the green of my yard. I can see the clouds and the blue sky. I can smell the greenery. I can smell flowers. The feeling's going to be the ice. I don't get there just yet until I'm in. The taste is, you know, it could be my warm morning delicious black cup of coffee. It could be my iced water I'm sipping before I step in. But it's just getting in touch with the physical self.
Yeah.
And so that's how I was getting myself to 2 minutes on my own. And then when Jason and Tom had invented the first prototype, we took it to Arco Santi, which is this beautiful community built in North Phoenix by Paolo Soleri, who was a partner of Frank Lloyd Wright's, and it's a self-sustaining community. Cool. And they do these really cool retreats, these like, you know, where you get talks and music and art and crafts and you meet all these cool people. And they said, they're friends of ours. Like, you guys want to come up and like show off your ice bath? We're like, heck yeah, we do. This ugly prototype we're in. So there were about 30 to 40 people that weekend that wanted to try it and had never done it before. And I thought, well, I know how I got myself in, so maybe I can help these people have a better first experience than I did. And at the time, I did not.
You're not going to tell them just suspend yourself,
right?
Over
and
the top.
drop yourself in.
1, 2, 3, splash.
Meet this with all the gusto. I'm like, don't do what I did. Do what I've learned from. And at this time, I still didn't have the bowls or anything like that. It was just grounding. It was very guided. It was like a one-on-one guided meditation before getting you in. And then I thought, well, when I'm at home, the way that I do these things is with my essential oils and my singing bowls and, creating special lighting. And how can I bring that into a deliberate cold exposure experience? So I got really lucky. We went to Toronto to meet our friends and help them build an ice bath because, they wanted to DIY. They wanted to figure out how to do it. So we're like, heck yeah, we're coming to Toronto. We're all going to build an ice bath together. And these people were so rad. Like, they brought friends in and their friends had all their essential oils and their singing bowls and stuff like that. And I was like, you guys, let's do this. Like, let's create an experience. We'll invite some of your friends and we'll try it out. We'll see what it's like to hear a bowl while you're in the water and start with your essential oil blend and go from there. And so that was the first time we really got to workshop my idea. Mm-hmm. And it was magic. I mean,
I have no doubt.
Every person there was like, ice bath and a sound bowl, a little bit of essential oils, some hot tea or coffee. Like, this is the jam. And now it was July in Toronto, so it was pretty toasty. It was pretty muggy. Everyone was feeling real warm and ready to get into the cold. It just added this enhancement to it that just brought it to a whole new level. From that moment on, I did not guide an ice bath without at least a singing bowl. And now I bring my essential oils, my Palo Santo, my sage, and I've developed the pre-ice meditation to a whole different level. It's a little bit of yoga nidra, a little bit of hypnotism, a little bit of breath work, and it's all combined to create this experience for you before you ever even meet the cold. So you forget that you're even going to get in an ice bath. You're just like, I'm standing here with Adrienne. She's looking me in the eye and she's telling me everything that's going to happen. Okay.
Yeah. That's interesting that you said a little bit of hypnotism. I recognize that from what we did. Cause I was like, okay, I'm just going to be in it. And you were just telling me what's going to happen and how I'm going to feel. And, I am all these things.
Painted this beautiful picture of every step that you were going to take. It helps when people are receptive. You're a very receptive person, so you say, I'm going to meet this experience openly and I'm going to embrace it. And so that helps a lot. And I do see an added ease for people who are familiar with breath work or familiar with meditative practice or yoga practice. There's an kind of an already there kind of acceptance of the experience, which helps.
Yeah. I still experience a lot of resistance with breath work. So
me too.
Yeah, it's never really easy for me. So, but that's okay. So what?
Yeah. So you do it anyway.
I just don't want anybody to be fooled that it's easy for me because it's not at all easy for me.
Yeah. I don't know if it's really easy for anyone, but I definitely, when I notice the aversion to things like that, I know that it's time to really lean in.
Yeah.
And I don't sign up for breath work regularly. I don't do it as my daily practice. I do know that my breath is my tool. And so even if I'm not doing a whole session, like I said, the box breathing is still really effective. So these tiny little techniques, if I can't fall asleep, it's 4-7-8 breathing. So in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. And that helps me drop into sleep if I'm struggling to drop into sleep. Did it last night. But yeah, so these little techniques. And then, like I said, once I got to workshop that, I never went back. My first real deep immersion into that was in 2019 at Burning Man. We brought a forge and
that's so rad.
I coached hundreds of people through the cold. For the first 6 days I was there for about 3 hours a day. I was just on a constant 12 to 15 people every hour. And then took a break for a couple of days. I literally laid out flat on the floor. I had no idea the energy exchange that I was going through by holding this space for people.
Wow.
And then because I'm putting you into fight or flight response, and everyone's response to fight or flight is different. You never know what you're going to get, especially with a first time ice bather. It was a lot. And so that's really where I learned the balance of my own energy and holding that space for people, and how it's so much more than guiding you through this experience. It's guiding you through thinking you're going to die.
Yeah.
And
it's hardcore.
Yeah. And what led me to the power pose post plunge.
Yeah. That's right.
So I read this book by Joe Navarro, who is an ex-FBI behavioral analyst, and it's called What Everybody is Saying. And he talks about this pose, and it's actually called arms akimbo. I just think that is so rad. Arms akimbo. The reason they call it power pose is if you stand that way, like Wonder Woman's, your feet are a little more than hip distance apart. Your hands are in fists on your hips with your thumbs pointing behind you, elbows out, chest out, shoulders down, chin up, and breathe. If you stand in that pose for 2 minutes, you invoke chemicals in the brain that create an atmosphere of calm and confidence. And I thought, what a great way to keep you from like getting out and like folding into yourself and creating a physical muscle memory of anxiety. Yeah. I want you to get out and feel empowered. So I want you to get out and create a physical muscle memory of this empowerment. I'm going to put you in power pose. So that's kind of what capped it off. Like, you're going to get out and you might feel like your fists don't move. You might feel like your legs don't support you. And they do. I promise.
I remember.
And then you stand and you're in that pose and you're breathing and everything's coming back online. You're like, okay, I'm alive. I survived that. I feel things. All right. I feel my fingers. I feel my toes. It's all coming back. And you're empowering yourself because you're in this power pose.
Yeah.
You did it. Way to go. Now I teach it in workshops. I have 20 certified Morozko Method coaches. So it's called the Morozko Method.
I want to be one. I want to do it.
Yeah. Oh,
how long does it take to get certified?
It's a 2-day class over a weekend.
Yeah, I need to do it.
8 hours each day. And it's really in depth on the science behind it all, contraindications. And I top it off with how to build and grow your business. Because a lot of people don't know how to be a commission-based entrepreneur or business owner. And so I teach you what it takes to start and grow your business, grow your schedule, market yourself, how to, it's not a business course, but, get your LLC, do these things. So build your clientele, share your word. Yeah. Because
I don't think in a lot of things like this, that's
right. Because it's more than learning the techniques of what I'm doing. I want you to expand on it. I want you to incorporate your own things. This is not, you have to do this word for word verbatim the way that I do it. I'm giving you the starting off point, and I want you to run with it and jump with it. I want to eventually see a dozen options for guided deliberate cold exposure. The same way that you can choose your yoga class, or you can choose your, cardio class. I want you to be able to choose your guided cold exposure experience. Right now, there are 2. So I'd love to see the Wim Hof method.
Okay.
And the Morozko method. So there are 2, and they're great. They're both really effective, but they're completely different.
I mean, is that really it? There's two like in the world?
In the world. There are 2. Yeah. And
congrats.
Yeah.
That's pretty
well, and
cool.
that's why I said, I love Wim Hof method breathing. It was just too high energy for me to meet the cold. I realized I needed something more grounding. And so the sensory immersive experience, I think, is also important because it's ceremony. It's sacred. It's spiritual. And when I'm working, especially one-on-one with clients in the process of healing, I want you to expand your mind. Yeah. I want you to explore your own sacred space. And I want to hold that space for you so that you feel like you can lean into your healing and lean into that process. So it's really important for me to just provide that and provide ways to share with other people so they can learn it as well.
I think so many times too, I've just noticed that a lot of times when we look to healing and think about that, a lot of times we still will look to medicine, like something to take, even if it's a psychedelic rather than traditional pharmaceuticals. And I have just been trying to tap in more to things that push me out of my comfort zone without doing that, and this is like push me out of my comfort zone, really push me into a healing space in a totally different way without having to take, mushrooms or ayahuasca or whatever. Not that those things don't have value, they do. But a lot of people I feel like a lot of times there's just a really hard focus on those.
Yeah. And I think that for me specifically, a lot of where the growth and the change and the healing comes from is the space in between.
It is. That's what we have to focus. It's that integration. And it's that time that we give ourselves to figure out what we learned.
Or to be still.
And be fucking still.
Like what happens if I don't reach for the Tylenol because I have a headache? What happens if I just sit still, check in with my body, check in with my mind, check in with my emotional state? What am I feeling? What am I working through?
Yeah.
How can I walk myself through stillness to get to the other side? And that's another thing that I teach, because it's the space in between where we get the growth. You're in the ice bath. Even now I sit in an ice bath and it's that quiet meditative stillness. Excuse me, but the effects come afterward. The effects are what I'm doing post.
Right. They are.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
So, yeah.
No, it's that space between.
Mm-hmm.
I did a podcast workshop when I was in Costa Rica with some people. And, it's the same in music too. Like it's those silences. Because I was like, I used to be afraid of those silences. Like we just had one. And it's those times where everything sinks in, And even like with content, I've been in the past few episodes encouraging people like shut it all off sometimes and just sit in silence in your car. Just let yourself absorb, let yourself sit, let yourself be quiet.
In my car is one of my favorite quiet spaces, partly because, they do all the soundproofing in cars so that you're not hearing everything, every little thing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes sitting in the car with my little sun moonroof open, feeling the sun come down on me in total silence. And I got my heated seats and my AC blowing because that's my favorite, warm buns and cold face. And just sitting in that quiet moment all by myself, uninterrupted. Sometimes that's my safe space. Sometimes that's my haven.
I think it's a lot of people's and they aren't maybe cognizant of it because we did spend so much time there before the pandemic and now we're starting to again. But yeah, I feel like if I allow it, if I just turn it off and sit.
Yeah. Yeah. No music.
Easy not to.
No podcast, no Audible, no phone calls, like no text, not scrolling. You're just sitting.
Just sit.
And just be. And that can be so beautiful. That space in between.
I agree. And it's cool that you can use this as a tool to get there because that's all these things are. This has actual physical healing properties, but a lot of this stuff that we do is just about it being a tool to get us to the right space.
Yeah, it's like a catalyst.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
I like the word catalyst.
I do too. I like saying catalyst.
Me too. Yeah. I've had a lot in my life, and just catalysts that showed me things, especially like with both my marriages breaking up. I had catalysts for those. And so it's not just ever one thing. It's just like finally.
Yeah.
You hit that.
The end of my first marriage was definitely a humbling experience.
I didn't realize you'd been married before.
Yeah. Yeah. Past life, it feels like.
Doesn't it though?
It really does.
How many lives do we live? I don't know. A lot.
I'll let you know.
Same
I'm
here.
Counting.
I got 8 years on you.
Yeah,
I'll let you know.
telling you. Thank you.
The last thing I wanted to cover too, since we brought up some plant medicines and healing in that regard, let's just touch on, because I know we've been talking for quite a while, but I want to touch on to your ayahuasca journey that you mentioned, because it was your first one. You went to Soltara in Costa Rica in January for your 40th, for December for your 40th birthday, right? So let's talk about that and your face and everything.
Yeah. So took me 3 years to get off all the medicine and to fully cure myself of autoimmune And I even went to.
Yeah, we should touch on that. You fully cured yourself.
I went to it was in December of 2020 that I went to Costa Rica at Soltara for my ayahuasca journey. It was in August of 2019 that I went to my endocrinologist. So a year before I went to Soltara, I went to my endocrinologist and I didn't tell her that I had not been on a single pill for like 3 months.
Were you on like Synthroid and stuff?
I was on, I got to think about it. It's the one that starts with an A. That's the pig hormone.
Yes, I know that one.
Yeah.
What is that called?
Yeah. Something.
I have tried that one. I know which one you're talking about. I'll look it up still while you're talking.
So I went in and I didn't tell her that I'd cut everything out because I was like, I just want her to read my blood work honestly and openly. And so I went in, she did my blood work. And when she was reading it, she says,
Armor.
There it is. Mm-hmm. She says, well, I just want you to keep in.
You stopped taking it.
Uh-huh. It'd been 3 months.
Because I'm hypothyroid. I take Synthroid. I've tried Armor. I have regulated. I haven't had to go up on it, but I'm very curious. Like if I did something like this on a regular basis, what would happen?
Oh, I think it would change your life. I've seen it. I've seen it in more than just me. I've seen it in my clients. I've seen people cure cancer, cure multiple sclerosis. There's
holy shit.
There's a woman that I know. She's a very young woman who was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Yeah.
And she was paralyzed. And she was told that like, this is it. This is, start preparing for your end of days. With deliberate cold exposure, she is now looking at going back into medical school. Like she's back.
She's like walking around.
She's back. Yeah. So you go to your endocrinologist. So I go to my endocrinologist. She's reading the results. She's like, I want to keep everything the same because you're doing really well and everything's in range.
Your levels are good. And you're like,
I said, well, I got something to tell you. I haven't taken a pill in 3 months. And it wasn't just that. I'd stopped my live antibody allergy shots. I'd stopped everything. And she's like, really? What have you been doing? And I'm like, I've been doing deliberate cold exposure. And now she'd been seeing me for years. So she knew that this was part of my practice. She knew low inflammation food regimen was part of my practice.
Like, were you still doing the food stuff?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And now I'm mostly protein carnivore, like mostly carnivore.
What happened to those other things that you were like allergic to, like eggs?
I'm still freaking allergic to eggs, man. When I fix that, then I know I'm superhuman. Like that's my goal is to be able to eat an egg. And I'm not kidding. I'll take a bite like once every 3 months and I'm like, still allergic.
What happens?
Oh, I get full on. I'll swell up. It's a whole.
I think I'm allergic and I've just, not known, but I've always had an aversion and then I would eat them and now I don't anymore. And I did. And I felt like shit.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing. But they're a superfood and I want them back.
I know, right?
So she says, well, that's great. I hope I never have to see you again. I thought, well, yeah, me too. Yes. And so I left like feeling really empowered. Like, yeah, I hope I never have to see you again. And within about a week.
But why didn't she go tell all her clients?
Bingo. Within about a week, I got really angry and I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out like, why am I so angry about this? And then I realized there were a dozen women sitting in her waiting room, overweight, unhappy.
Who could use this?
Uncomfortable.
Get one in your fucking office.
And she didn't even think for a moment to say, how can I share this?
Maybe I should study this and put it in a medical journal.
See something wrong there?
Yeah, a lot.
So a year later, I go to Costa Rica to go to Soltara for my ayahuasca journey. And it was beautiful because this was something that I decided to do on my own. And it was even funny, like leading up to it, because there was a 5-day retreat and a 7-day retreat. And the only one available was the 7-day. Like, there's no freaking way. My first ayahuasca journey, like, I'm going to do 4 nights of ceremony and a 7-day retreat, like, go for the full gusto. Like, no, if I can't do the
4 nights of ceremony.
Yeah. I'm like, if I can't go for the 5-day, like, I'm not doing it, blah, blah. And I'm in a voice lesson. And I have this another, like, aha moment, like, you're fighting it because you need to do it. So get out of here and go sign up. So I get out, I go to sign up. Bless Melissa. She's like, well, we don't have any more openings in the 7-day, but we just got one in the 5-day. I was like, yes,
thank you, universe, for rewarding me.
That's the magic of accepting the thing that you're fighting against, right? Lean into the thing that's making you so uncomfortable and terrified. So within about 2 months of like, I'm doing this, I was there. And I did it well. I paid attention to dieta. as best I could prior to leaving.
So everybody does. Just do the best you can.
Just do the best you can. And mostly I eat very clean anyway. So I'd already done a lot of the work. I spent a few days in San Jose before I went to Soltara. So I really disconnected, like just took it one step at a time, fried my laptop on the plane with my water bottle.
Was done.
So clearly that there wasn't any work getting done, and really took that time to kind of drop into myself and make it my own. And after my first night of ceremony, I thought for sure, yes, this was magic. These are all the things. Cool. And I sat in silence. After my first night of ceremony the next morning, I sat in silence until I spoke with the shaman, Maricela and Francisco.
I'm pretty curious about silence. I've been thinking about that. Someone was telling me to do a Vipassana retreat and get quiet. And I'm like, well, that's out of my comfort zone.
Girl, I am learning so hard, trying so hard to practice, like non-interrupting people and like holding space for other people to talk. And I tell you what, my throat chakra is the strongest chakra I have. So I sat in silence. I spoke with the shamans the next morning and I was like, there's no way I can do this again. There's no way I can do another. I was going into it like, I don't care what they say. I am not taking the medicine the second night in a row. I got what I came here for and that's enough. And I'm going to be strong in my word. And that's what I'm going to do. Nope. So they laughed at me and they said, it's supposed to be challenging. You're supposed to cry. You're supposed to do all these things. This is part of the healing. And so I did lean into the next 2 nights of ceremony, changed me as a person to a point where, and I'd gone 5 whole days. I hadn't touched my phone. So I bring it back online and my Face ID was not recognizing me. And so I'm just like, whatever, I'm putting in my password instead of worrying about it. Like, I'm not worried. I didn't lose weight or anything like that.
Yeah.
I was at my good, at this point, I'd lost all the extra 50 pounds. I was feeling really good. Been eating, beautiful, amazing food all week long, prepared by their kitchen staff, all those amazing people. And so it was like the day after when I left and Jason had picked me up and I'm still trying to access my phone. It's just not working. And it's like, your face is not being right. Your face is not being recognized. And he's like, a couple of people had said to me over those last 2 days, like, you just look like a different person. You don't even look like the same person that walked in here. And again, aha moment. I was like, maybe it doesn't recognize me because I'm not recognizable. I had to reset the Face ID on my phone and my tablet in order to recognize
and
the
your
new
tablet.
person and my tablet in order to recognize the person that I'd become.
Do you look at pictures and can you see the difference?
100%.
What is the difference? I think you look different.
I think I look lighter.
You look lighter. You do.
Like when I look at pictures of me
There's like a
before,
softness or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I look at pictures of me
because I haven't seen you since, I don't think.
You saw me after.
Yeah, I did see you after because you told me that. So I saw you pretty briefly after.
Yeah. When I look at pictures of myself before, I see so much weight and strain and tension. And it's almost like I lost, like it just lifted everything. Like there was this like release of tension in the forehead and around the eyes. It was like I'd gotten a facelift or something. And it was just a weightlessness. And it was also... This is a powerful part of my experience I won't dive into right here. It was an embracing of my feminine that allowed that softness to come through.
Cool.
I was no longer so strong holding on to my masculine.
And that's that control thing.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. I did not feel the need to be, and I do still, this is still my practice. Like I feel like everything I do is just a practice.
Same.
Yeah. But it's, I realized that part of this next step in my journey is to really lean into the feminine for the first time. I was raised by my father, so I was in a very male-dominated world my whole childhood, and so it's a complete shift for me. And I've been working on this feminine for years now, for like 3 or 4 years now. I've been hard leaning into it, but it took that ceremony to release me and allow me to open and blossom. And I believe the flower bath had a big part to do with that.
Really?
Something so simple as 3 ingredients and some water being poured over your head by a shaman that truly allowed me to bloom and blossom. And I met amazing women on that journey. I was one of 5 women on that journey. We were all cycled up together during the experience, which was also really powerful. I just got covered in goosebumps just thinking of that. So shout out to all my Aya ladies fam. And it changed me. It changed me as a person. And I am now able to feel feminine in ways that I did not know were accessible to me. I cry a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been working on it too.
Yeah.
And just to hear that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And at 40, you know?
At 40. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like I arrived. Like there's something about 40 where I'm like, heck yeah, I am 40. Let's feel this. I feel better than I ever have. If I could take this face and body over 32 or 29 or maybe not 24, I was pretty hot. But, yeah. But I'll take it. Like I feel more me than I ever have. And I get there, I get there more and more every day.
Yeah, you do.
Mm-hmm.
You do. So good. Justin looks at pictures of me and he can't even comprehend. He's like, you look so different now.
Different people.
And we are different people and we just have to allow ourselves to evolve. And, you know, I'm looking at 50 now and I'm like, what do I want that to look like? What do I want that to feel like? Not that I can predict it,
right?
But I can do the work to show up and to keep stepping into the feminine, to push myself outside the comfort zone, to do the things, to sign up for the ayahuasca journey that you don't want to do.
Yep. Yeah. That you know you need.
That you
take that ice bath that you know you need, but you don't want to do.
Right. And when they appear to you, you're listening to this right now, you know,
lean in.
Lean in.
Lean in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Or lean back and relax and surrender to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
so much of it is surrender because like we're not here to control it. Mm-hmm. This is a ride. This is just a ride.
And I love that we really got into the physical because one of the things I've been thinking about for this last week and last week's show and then just being in Costa Rica and then like part of my intention there was to feel more fully embodied in my body, feminine wise, because I think we discount that a lot and can beat ourselves up. And I know, at least I do. And so I've been sharing about that a lot and being easier on myself. And then Aubrey Marcus at our Fit for Service Summit said something, and he was just talking about how much we discount, like, and we'll say like our meat suit, you know, and like discount the human aspect and the actual physicality of this experience so much and detach from it and go more spiritual. And I love that he said that because I hear so many people talk like that. And it was exactly in line with what I have been thinking about, you know, and these bodies are a gift. Like, what are we doing with it? And I love that you're talking about not only state changes, but just the physicality and really getting in touch with that and listening to your body.
Yeah.
In all these ways.
And I did, especially after ayahuasca, I referred to my body as my meat suit for a minute because it took me ayahuasca.
Sure,
and
you're
also
like
bufo. Like it was very spatial awareness was weird. And now that I'm coming back online a little bit, and it does take a while. Now that I'm coming back online a little bit, I see these scars or these freckles or this puffy eye, and I'm going like, "Oh, look at you! Look how pretty you are!" And your puffiness, or your redness, or your, you know, maybe your bloated belly because you had that dessert that maybe you didn't need but you wanted because it was your 40th birthday. God damn it!
Yes.
And you know, excuse my language.
Not
but
here.
like it was.
Not here.
Thank you.
It's all good.
It's part of that. It's part of embracing, and I don't even like to call them imperfections. These are parts of our body showing us things. Like my puffy eyes say, "Oh, girl, you didn't get too much sleep last night. What can you do for yourself today?"
That's right. It's all teaching.
Yeah.
us.
And if I were to talk to my 9-year-old niece, what would I say to her? You know, like it always helps me to reframe it of like, what would I say to little Adrienne? What would I say to little Zoe? What would I say to, you know, my best friend when she comes to me and says, "God, I just feel like I look like this and blah, 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 blah." Like I'm going to say, you are beautiful as you are. Mm-hmm. You are beautiful in your pain, in your tears, in your struggles, in your discomfort, in your inflammation, in your whatever it is. You are beautiful.
It's all part of it.
Mhm.
And it's all here
part of
for
it.
learning, for our learning. It's all presented to us for our learning.
It's all just practice.
I'm careful when I say things like that because then I'm like, it'll teach me something real fast. I'll be
Real
like,
fast.
oh, really? You think so? Here's something to show you.
Just put a little
Try
mirror in
this
front of
one
my
on.
face when I'm giving my advice.
Try this on for size. Yes. So anyway, I do try to stay, cautious of that because life has a way of really bringing into your
It sure
attention, do you
does.
mean what you say?
Yep.
But I do.
Yeah.
And so do you.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that you want to reiterate before we wrap up today, or anything that you want to share, or anything that really came to mind when you thought about doing this conversation with me?
Yes. Start small. Just start small. Make one small change. Just one. Whether that's, switching your coffee to black coffee. Don't take the cream and the sugar out all at once. Pick one that you can't live without. First, I took the sugar out.
I'm a big fan of baby steps.
Yeah. First, I took the sugar out. Later, I took the half and half out. Now I drink it all black.
Really?
Now I don't even drink it sometimes. So one tiny change. And we hear this all the time. One tiny change a year from now can change your entire life.
That's right.
Don't try to take it all on at once. It's too overwhelming. You'll abandon it all.
Right.
Make
small steps.
What is one thing that you can do right now, today? Box breathing. Just do it. Just try it.
Yeah.
Whatever the thing is.
5 minutes. Try it for 5
Pick
minutes.
the
Set your
thing.
timer.
Yeah.
Not that hard.
Start with one small thing. And then a few years later, you could be sitting in a space looking back at yourself going, damn, girl, you've done good work.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Look what a difference that made.
Yeah.
That's good, simple advice, because I feel like a lot of people would look at you and be like, oh, shit, she's going to tell me to go sit in an ice bath for 4 minutes,
No.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never force you in, and I'd never force you to stay.
Right.
Yeah.
You're so beautiful.
You're so beautiful.
Ugh.
Thank you, Amy.
God,
this
thank
was such
you.
a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. I'm so happy. I've been really looking forward to
Me
this.
too.
I'm so stoked about it. Please review with everyone. And we're going to put links. I do them in the intro, everything. So can you just review everywhere that everyone can find you?
Yes.
And the ice baths.
Yes. I am on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Adrienne _Jezick, ADRIENNE_JEZICK.
My favorite way to spell Adrienne, by the way.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah.
Morozko Forge is at Morozko Forge, MOROZKOFORGE. And our website is the same, www.morozkoforge.com.
How much does an ice bath cost? Just in case people are wondering.
We have 3 ranges.
Mhm.
So our low range, which does cold only, no filtration, is about $4,000.
Mhm.
Our mid range that does cold and filtration is about $8,500. And then our high end and commercial model is about $15,500.
And that's really like commercial, like if you're using it.
Commercial.
Sure.
And also we have a clientele that really loves the 5-year warranty on that model, really loves the stainless steel, really loves the look of it.
Yeah.
We also offer upgraded design styles. So we do a burnt charcoal
I've seen
cedar.
them. They're really pretty.
They're beautiful. And so if you're going to put it in your backyard in your home and you have a certain aesthetic, we understand
Mhm.
and we want you to be able to follow your aesthetic. So now we have a design team that will help you, kind of incorporate that into your personal aesthetic.
And it's good to think about, what would you spend on a hot tub? What would you spend on putting that in? What would you spend on,
What would you spend on a year worth of thyroid medication?
Yeah.
And specialists.
Or being off of it. What would I spend to be off of it?
Yeah. Right. Oh, I would pay. I'm telling you, girl.
That's
Yeah.
right. What would you
Mhm.
spend to, I don't know, possibly.
Yeah, to change your life. And we do have commercial facilities. So, just check us out. We're online. We're everywhere. And
Hey.
you can always email info@morozkoforge .com if you have any questions.
Oh, good. I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad to just share that. I hate when I listen to one and I'm like, well,
Tell me where to get the good stuff.
What? Yeah. Like, how much would I have to spend to get one of these? Like, let me
Yeah.
brace myself. Let me
Yeah.
get my payment plan together or something like that.
Yeah, we do
So,
offer financing too.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
Keep that in mind.
even better.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Amy.
thank you so much. I'm just so excited to share your message because I really believe in it, and just that you glow. You model it, and so that's when you're living it. That's like the best of all. The best.
Gotta walk the walk.
Yeah, walk the walk.
Mhm.
Walk the damn walk. People
Yeah.
say that to me. They're like, why are you like shiny and happy and all that? And I'm like, because I'm fucking doing it.
You are. You are. And that's why the stars aligned for us to sit here together
Yeah.
today. I'm sure of it.
Damn
I'm sure
right.
of it.
Damn right. So, well, good. I'm so excited for this to come out tomorrow. So,
Yay. Thank you.
Mwah. I love you so much.
I love you.
Okay, so a couple things that Adrienne forgot to mention that I want to add is that they have their own Morozco Method podcast. And on that podcast and on their YouTube, they have all these meditations. So you can work on forgiveness, or you can work on trust, whatever it is, you can do their meditations with or without the cold, I'm sure. So that's really cool. No pun intended. Or maybe it was. I don't know. And I just, again, like want to reiterate what she said at the end, like our little steps matter, like the little things that we can tell ourselves, the little ways that we can push ourselves. Maybe you do share an unfiltered picture. Maybe, maybe it's just something as simple as saying you're beautiful in the mirror. Does that sound foreign to you? Does that push you in some way? It does me. Looking in my own eyes in the mirror and like saying you're beautiful, I'm getting more used to it. Saying I love you, I'm getting more used to it, but it doesn't come easy. And I remind people in my household to do it. And they think I'm a little kooky, especially my daughters. They'll be like, oh, Mom. But you know what? Why not? Why not? We say all the bad shit to ourselves. Why not try saying some good shit? Or maybe you already do. You are listening to this. So that's a good step for sure. So don't be afraid to just find some stillness. Let it all absorb, just like the cold. Find that stillness. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm just so glad you're here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm glad I'm here. I'm just counting my lucky stars. It makes me feel emotional just to say that and just to be sitting here and be cognizant of this and getting to do this. I'm just so grateful and watching it build and building it with you. So if you can rate and review or even just hit a rating of like 5 stars, that would mean the world to me. Please, please. That would be awesome. It matters in this podcasting game kind of a thing. And also share it with a friend, or just sign up for the newsletter too. That's at amyedwards.com. And you can also write to me. You can respond to the newsletter and write to me, or you can simply email me anytime you want, amy@amyedwards.com, or hit me on Instagram. Although I don't always see those messages, but I'd love to still try to connect with you there. I'm at Real Amy Edwards. And just thank you so much. And big, big thanks to Adrienne for being here today. Remember, excuse me. Remember that you can find her at Adrienne_Jezick. ADRIENNE_JEZICK on Instagram, or them at morozcoforge.com or Morozco Forge on Instagram, MOROZKO Forge. And check it out too, because I'm going to be sharing myself doing a cold plunge with her probably on my IGTV, which I'm simultaneously nervous and excited about. I had a therapist that said, nervous and excited live right next door to each other in the little land of emotions. Yeah, put it into child terms for me because, I'll be sure to understand it then. And clearly I remember it. That was like 15 years ago. So anyway, get nervous, get excited, push yourself, say, I love you, say you're beautiful in the mirror, I'm beautiful, whatever it is. Those baby steps matter. And thank you so much for being here today. I think I covered everything. Humongous thanks to Adrienne. Thanks to our team here at Hot Pie Media. Don't forget that we have a ton of other awesome content at Hot Pie. Big love to you. Peace, love, health, wealth. Here's to pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone and recognizing that and listening to our bodies and tapping in. What do we have to learn from this physical nature? A lot. I love you. Till next time. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this show, please rate and review It totally matters. And I encourage you to spread the love too and share this episode with a friend if you feel called. Find me and my newsletter sign up at amyedwards.com. And you can also connect with me on Instagram at RealAmyEdwards or in Clubhouse at Amy Edwards, or write to me. It's amy@amyedwards.com.